It's Wednesday, July 5th, 2023. If we could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. And April, please let the record show that we are all present. All right, we're going to move on to the approval of the consent agenda.
Take a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're going to move on to the approval of the agenda, and I do have a couple things to change here I'd like to change. Number one is the library asked to be taken off and possibly moved to the next agenda on what would that be? August.
Table to August.
Okay.
10A, item 10A, John, you want to take off?
Yes. And then I'd also like to move item I to the position that they were originally at.
Yeah, because Eric's here. We'd like to get him in and out,
To the front.
if you don't mind.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with those amendments, which is to remove original 10A, which is consideration of resolution 2023-19. We'll move that until a later date, and then move item 10I up to 10A in its place.
I'll support.
Motion and support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, now we're going to move on to announcements and communications. Anyone have anything you'd like to talk about?
Sure.
And Chris, you pass it.
Yeah, I just, Robert and I attended the SEMCOG General Assembly last month, and I just passed out a little pamphlet they asked to share with the board about the opportunities of working with SEMCOG and the membership services, so just something to keep us in mind.
Oh, it's nice little folder. Okay, anyone else? Go ahead.
I just want to let you know it's that time of year, the summer tax bills went out, so if for any reason you didn't get your summer tax bill, please contact the treasurer's office and we'll be happy to send you a new one. And then I think Brian has a couple announcements for, right?
We're going to put him on that.
You're going to actually, okay, you're going to be in reports?
Yep.
So you'll tell them about the trail? Okay,
I will.
I was
Yep.
excited about that, okay.
Yep. Okay, anyone else? Okay. Seeing no one, we're going to move to call the public. When you come up, talk about non-agenda related items. Please, 3 minutes each. And come on, name and address for the record, please.
Hi, so my name is Michelle Roslinski. I live in Woodwind Village. I've been a Woodwind Village resident for over 17 years. My background is in chemical engineering, and for a living I do industrial water treatment, not potable. The purpose of me talking today is I have some big concerns about the communication regarding the pellet softening system that's gone on. I'm not opposed to the softening system. I get that it was for the best interest of the residents, but there's been a couple of things that have happened with my background. I've become the source for my neighbors, and I think the township needs to do a better job of communicating. I think I was texted with Mr. Enlow a couple of times about what the neighborhood and what the township should do. At the April 3rd board meeting, it was announced that the township was doing this. Around mid-May, we received a letter about the pellet softening system. There's no date on this, so I think it was around mid-May that we got it. Personally, I left my softener online knowing what I know about the industry and calcium and magnesium and softening for water. On June 7th, I noticed that my outdoor plants were coated in a white residue, and on June 8th, I emailed the contact that was in the letter, Highland Treatment. I communicated back and forth with Anthony Dobson, the operations supervisor, who I want to know was very helpful, responsive, quick to the responses, and provide a lot of information. What I learned from that conversation were, from the time that the letter told us to bypass the softeners, and explicitly says, at that time, you may bypass your softener. It will take weeks. At that time, you'll get more communication. What I learned from the operations supervisor is there was an issue and the plant had to be taken offline for at least 2 weeks. I think it's been longer than that. The white residue was a release of calcium from a reactor being overpressurized. Daily flow was estimated to be 1 million and went up to 5 million gallons of water a day because of irrigation. That caused problems. And I was also told another letter would be sent out with better communication about the quality of water we would be receiving. As a side note, it's July 5th, have not received any communication at all. Because the residents were suggested to bypass their softeners, anyone who did so received that big excursion of hard water for at least a couple of weeks. I've heard from at least 3 neighbors in the last couple of weeks that they've had to replace their water heaters. Maybe it's coincidence, but I do know from my background that a hardness excursion and you're not softening your water will coat up the heating elements and could absolutely cause the kind of problems that would cause a replacement to be seen, or a water heater to be replaced. On my way here, as I told my friends I was coming here, I had 2 others on top of the 3 tell me that they've replaced their hot water heating tanks in the last couple of months, in the last couple of weeks. My request is that we get communication. We've had 0 communication. Again, I keep telling my neighbors, keep your water softener online. I think we need something that says, here's what your water should be, here's what to look out for, here's what it's going to be doing. It was kind of advertised as a do-all, end-all to all of our water problems, and it's not that. So we need, number 1, a letter detailing what this should be, and number 2, an easy-to-find source of information for when that plant is down, because the water quality when the plant is running and when it is not are very, very different. So those are my 2 requests from the township.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, anyone else like to come on? Okay, seeing none, we're going to close call to the public, and we're going to move on to reports. And Brian, we're going to put you in the DDA slot since she is not here tonight.
Okay, thank you. I have 2 bits of good news for the board this evening. The first, Patty alluded to, we have, on behalf of the Trail Council, the township, Milford Township, and the city of South Lyon, we applied for a SEMCOG grant for, this specifically was to improve your trail crossings. So not only within Lyon Township, but the other 2 communities as well. Every place where the trail crosses a road, we have proposed that we provide a plan, do a bit of studying at each one of those, and identify some solutions. So this is not a construction grant, but this is design and problem, I'll call it problem mitigation. But the township was awarded $45,000 worth of assistance. As part of that, you have I believe it's a $5,000 match. Is that?
I think it's $2,800 between the 3 communities.
Okay, it was small.
It's very small, yeah.
Very small. So you'll get a lot of bang for the buck on that project, so that is good news. We do have to deliver that by I'm forgetting timelines. I believe by next summer we have to have the work completed, so we'll get moving on that in short order. The other bit of good news is I attended a meeting today in regard to the transit service that the township uses People's Express for. And we've been working long and hard, both, the township, South Lyon, Milford Township, Wolverine Lake, Commerce Township, and Wixom. All of us collectively have been meeting with Oakland County and People's Express to try to make best use of the new transit millage monies that are being charged throughout Oakland County. And as a result of that, I think we have a pretty good draft agreement going that we're all hopefully on board with. What that will do is takes all of the contract that the township and each one of the other municipalities signed individually with People's Express and gives that role and responsibility to Oakland County. We won't have to manage any of that contract, but the most important thing, and sorry, I just got this afternoon, so I can't share it, but the boundaries that your residents enjoy today, where they can go to Providence and they can go up to Pontiac Trail, down to 8 Mile, and to the city of South Lyon, those are going to be improved immensely. So your residents will be able to, for the same cost that they ride today, they'll be able to go to the city of South Lyon, Milford Township, Village of Milford, Commerce, Wolverine Lake, and Wixom, all on that same rate. And then we've also expanded the boundaries where the charge goes up a little bit, but your residents will be able to take People's Express all the way to M59, over to 23, down to 7 Mile Road, and then Drake, Hiller, through West Bloomfield, and I guess that's Livonia. So significantly increased boundaries, places they can travel. We're also adding Saturday and Sunday service through People's Express, so a lot of good changes that are going to occur with this. So ultimately, I don't need any action from the board tonight, but likely in August we'll be asking for an agreement to let us sunset our contract with People's Express in favor of the contract that Oakland County is going to sign with People's Express. Now they have to get approval from the County Board of Commissioners, but Phil Weipert has been involved in all of those meetings along the way, as well as the other reps from the other communities. And so I think we have buy-in from at least several of the county commissioners on this change as well. So I think it's good news all around.
Oh, that is good news.
And a good use of your transit millage that otherwise was going to be going elsewhere.
Fantastic. Thank you, Brian. Any questions for Brian? All right, we're going to move on to fire. Chief?
Brought my dinner. Good evening, everyone. At this time last year, we were at 860 calls, and as of earlier today, we're at 960, so we're up 100 calls from this time last year. From our training side, she's not here, but I would like to thank Amy and the DDA because they did allow us to use a DDA-owned property behind the New Hudson Inn that we were able to perform roof operation training and with our ground ladders and our new ladder 24, and this has turned out to be one of our best company trainings that the fire department has had in recent memory, so we're very appreciative of the DDA and the township for using that property. Right here, this is something else that we've put in service, and this is a good thing for the entire community. This is known as a Carter kit, and we recently purchased 2 of these Carter kit sensory bags that are, the idea is to equip as many police, fire, and EMS agencies with these kits with the idea of calming distressed children that are on the autism spectrum disorder. So when we arrive on scene, these items have been proven to clinically comfort and appropriately focus children who are on the spectrum, as well as other children that may be going through traumatic events. So they contain a weighted blanket. I'm not going to, well, I guess I am. This is a weighted blanket. There's sunglasses, there's noise-reducing earmuffs, and then there's about 24 toys that that we will utilize when needed for these traumatic events, and there's also these nonverbal cue cards that will also help us with communication with these children as well. And then finally, tomorrow marks my 36th anniversary in the fire service, and that includes 20 as fire chief. So September 1st will be my 10-year anniversary here with Lyon Township, and it's also going to be my retirement date from the fire service in Lyon Township. So it has been my honor to serve this community and to be part of this great department. And that concludes my report.
Well, thank you, Chief. I know I'm one that has known about that, and it's saddening to us all. You've done a great job here, and we certainly appreciated the 10 years you put in here, and it's tough to see retirement, but I also am envious of retirement. So I'm kind of envious.
Thank you.
But thank you for...
I'm gonna clap for you right now.
All right, we'll move on to Lieutenant.
Only 10 more years to go, right?
All right. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'd like to give you a brief update on our stats this year compared to last. I think it's important here. So last year, our total number of calls for service were 15,503. Last year, from January through June 30th, we took care of 6,950 calls. And this year so far, from January through June 30th, we have handled 12,028 calls. Round of applause for law enforcement.
No money.
Guys are working hard. We're doing what we need to do to keep you all safe. All right. Next up, I'd like to update the members of the board and our community about an event. On this July 9th, the Motorcycle Club on Milford Road, I think we're all familiar with them, they will be having their 12th annual barbecue and photo shoot. This event is expected to bring hundreds of motorcycle clubs and riding groups to our community. So I just want to make sure people are aware and they aren't alarmed if they see, a couple thousand motorcycles riding around. Just know that we're aware of it. It's a planned event, and I will have extra personnel on staff just in case any problems arise. That concludes my report. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I won't be retiring.
And I'm not going to play. All right, moving on to the planning commission.
All righty, we had 2 meetings in the month of June, and our June 12th meeting was pretty busy. We held 2 public hearings. The first one is on the Sun Outdoors Haas Lake Educational Trail in Dinosaur Park, which is featured on your agenda tonight. And the Planning Commission recommended approval, or recommendation to the Township Board. Also, on our second public hearing was held on Cattails Cove PD preliminary review, and that was tabled. They need to do a lot more work on their site plan. They had, according to the Planning Commission, we felt that there was just way too much density, and we sent them back to the drawing board to see if they could work the numbers. And there was quite a few concerns with not only our planners and our engineers, so they really had a lot of work to do. Then moving on, we had under new business, we had Aspen Trail, which is also on our board agenda tonight. We recommended, they're asking for an extension of their plan development. Actually, they had to start all over again, but it's the same plan, and we recommended that to the Township Board. We also had the Wall Bridge site plan extension approval, and they were on time, and they did ask for an extension for 12 more months, and that was recommended. And the same with MLB single-family condos. That's the 5 single lots, and they are also asking an extension, and we felt both developments were moving along just a little bit behind, and they needed the extension. So that concluded the 12th. On the on Monday, June 26th, we had test text quadrants site plan review, but the applicant removed that from the agenda. Obviously, they weren't ready. And Brian brought to us a private road text amendment, but while the Planning Commission discussed that, we just felt we needed a lot more information from Brian or Andrew, and more time to discuss that because we just all had too many questions, and so we just tabled that to the next meeting. And that concludes my reports. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Okay. Seeing none, we're going to move to the ZBA.
Hang on to this. We did have a meeting on June 20th, and actually I would like to thank Catherine, because she did a lot to keep us on track with the change in the date, although there were a couple of ZBA members who were not aware that the township offices were not open on that Monday. So I do appreciate the calls and the reminding emails that Catherine gave to us all. However, the June 20th meeting, we had an applicant requesting a variance from section 36.02F, requiring the 25-foot vegetative strip setback from the boundary of any protected wetland, and the applicant was requesting a variance of 10 feet. That was declined or denied, and I feel like the Township Board and the Planning Commission have been very consistent in wanting to maintain that, so it made the decision a lot clearer for the ZBA. I appreciate that as a Township Board and the Planning Commission, we've been pretty focused on maintaining that setback. And then on July 17th, we will have a meeting. So
come one, come all. It'll be a lot of fun on the 17th. And that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you, Lise. Dave, Building Department?
Hello, everyone. I'm sure everybody's all either rested up or worn out from the long weekend, one or the other, so I'll just run over some numbers from May. We had a pretty good month as far as the house permits went. We had 40 new homes come through. C of Os, we gave out 47 new C of Os and 7 temporary C of Os. Total inspections was 907, and the building permit was, or the building inspections were 505. And the total permits for the month, the total permits was 78, was exactly the same as last year at the same month. So everything's moving along. You know, we're keeping very busy in the building department, along with all the other, permits we have with the pools and the accessory buildings, decks, basements. So the girls are keeping very, very busy. So that's it.
All right, any questions for Dave? Okay, we're going to move on to this water. I wish Michelle would have stayed for a few minutes, because I'm going to take 100% responsibility for this water situation. I just want to let everyone, when I got here, the water was absolutely horrible. We worked so hard to find a contractor that we could use that would make our water quality water. And we did that. We actually have probably one of the best treatment plants there is. Okay, the DEQ gets involved in things that delay things over and over and over through a process. We've worked on this since about 2017 in a 2-year project. This job was supposed to be done in a couple of years. Now here we are in 2023. Now we did go through COVID. I promised everyone here that we'd have soft water. When I got here, the last supervisor was trying to get us hooked up to Great Lakes water. That would have cost us about $120 million over 30 years. I wanted to get water to the quality of Great Lakes water, and that was my whole key. Instead of having to give up all our assets of our water to Great Lakes Water and have them run our system, and when their pipes go down, we're 100 miles at the end of the structure, we have to boil water, turn our wells back on. It was really a horrible situation, very expensive. So we come across a guy that did a wonderful job for us. It's taken a while. There's no doubt about it. We started out with ion softening, which would have been a perfect scenario for our township. The DEQ refused to let us ion soften because the backwash was tremendous and it would go all over the place. They didn't want that. So we come up with a pellet softening, as Michelle said. We came up with a pellet softening. It's pretty much a brand new type of softening. Now again, everyone has to understand the township doesn't have to do this. I'm just trying to make it the best quality water anywhere. So the DEQ drug their feet on giving us the okay to put this system online for the whole winter. We had everything built. We were ready to go online. We wanted to put this thing online when we had very low flow, 1 million gallons a day. We have one plant built. We have another one that we're going to build that will be absolute take care of the whole township to 10 grains. We've always said 10 grains. We've never said 0. And the DEQ will not let us take it to 0 because it's a very aggressive water. As people, I don't think a lot of people understand, when they soften their water to 0, it becomes a very aggressive water in your house. And they use a lot of PEX and plastic pipes so it doesn't tear your pipes up. It's very aggressive water. So this pellet softening takes out the calcium. Okay, it takes just the calcium hardness out of the water, which is the scaling, all the things that are bad for your fixtures. It doesn't take out the magnesium hardness. And magnesium hardness is a hardness that you don't see like calcium. It's soluble. It comes through you don't see it. It might put a spot on a dish here and there, and I think that's what the spot-free stuff does. It gets rid of that spot. Okay. Well, we waited too long to turn it on, and when we turned it on, when the DEQ said go, I was ecstatic. I said, we're going to get us softened water. I came into this board and I preached to everyone here. This is the best day of my life. This is 8 years down the road. We're finally going to turn on softening for our residents. We turned it on. Okay, we were running about 1.5 million gallons a day at that time. We had the water coming down with one plant to about 10 grains. We hit about our 10 grain target that we were looking for. And then we pumped 7 million gallons in one day. Okay? It took out one of our high service pumps and it put a plume of pressure into our reactor that forced the calcium up into the system. And that's the water she's talking about. There was no harm done to it. I don't know if it took out a water softener here or there, or it took out a water heater. I don't know that. But it was a day. Sean called me and said, hey, I've got a cloudy water. I jumped right on it. We took care of it. The communication, she's absolutely right. We're still trying to figure out exactly what happened to put a letter together to tell the residents. But be assured, the water is fantastic. It's still fantastic. It's just we're back to hard water, harder than it was. Okay? We are looking at about another 2 weeks probably to get this reactors back online. So it is going to be about a 2-week wait. I mean, we've got about 2 more weeks. Now we come up with the decision. Do we turn it on in a 7 million gallon usage, or do we wait until the usage goes down and give us a chance to dial it in? See, our problem was we didn't get the chance to dial it in. It just, the water went from here to here overnight, and we didn't get a chance to dial it in. And that's my fault. I'll take all responsibility for that. I feel so bad when somebody stands up and says things like that, because the only thing that this township board, and I'll speak for everyone here, wants is to have the best quality water delivered to our residents. They haven't had that ever. They've always had brown water and bathing their kids. They've never had that. And now we don't have brown water. I can tell you right now, we do not have brown water. We have excellent water coming in. It's very filtered. We have an excellent treatment plant. It's just we're trying to take it to the next level. And this next level is a tough one. And it's much tougher than I thought it was going to be. So we have produced a letter. I put it in front of everyone here tonight that we're going to send out again. And by the way, the letter that was sent out the first time was forced by the DEQ. The DEQ looked at this as, and I know I'm babbling on, but you need to understand the system. We were out of compliance in our sewer system because there was a lot of salt intake coming from softeners going down the drain, and it put our sewer system out of compliance. So we started getting tagged for that, violation notice. So all they want is to get everybody in the township not to use salt in their softeners. They want potassium chloride, which is 5 times the cost of salt, but it doesn't take the sewer out of compliance. So the minute they knew we had that softening turned on, they forced a letter to say, get everybody's softener off. Put that letter out right away. We were not ready for that, and I will tell you, I shouldn't have let them push that. 100% my fault. And we have to make that better. And I'm working on it. And believe me, I want the best quality water. Your water is great right now. You don't have to worry about if there was a little bit of residue here. It's the calcium in the water. I always think it's so funny because we take out iron, we want to take out calcium, we're trying to take out magnesium, and then everybody goes to the doctor and they get pills for calcium, magnesium, and iron. You know, but it's just the aesthetics of the water, okay? And please, folks, believe I'm working on it. I'm working hard. This has been my mission in this job. I'm at this plant every single day. We are so close. When we get these reactors rebuilt, they will be stronger than they've ever been. This will not happen again. But we have to get to that place. And we're going to get there. And we're going to get there. And we have to make a decision on this board whether we want to energize this reactor before the usage goes down. That's going to be our decision. If we all here say yes, let's put this thing on, we'll put out a letter. It'll be the same type of letter you received the last time. It'll say, you can bypass your softeners. You don't have to. You don't have to, because we were not, if you read the letter, it said, bypass them. If you don't like the quality of water, turn them back on. Because we're still in this adjustment process. And we're going to be there for a while. Possibly till the end of the year, trying to get this thing adjusted. And I am very sorry that I hadn't communicated better, but I will. And I just wish Michelle would have, I will communicate better, I promise you that. So, sorry folks, we're going to get there. You're going to have the best water around. We rank number 5 in the communities that put their water in without the softening. Number 5. So it's pretty good water right now, but we want it better. We want it the best we can give it to you, and we're going to work on it. For a very inexpensive price, by the way. We're going to keep that price low. So.
Hey, John, before we move on, I want to thank you for all your hard work for all these years, and unfortunately, I just want to say, just because I think while we're talking about it, you talk a lot about the softening system, but what everybody may not know or may not be aware of is that in the meantime, we've extended significant water main to loop our system and create redundancy and balance pressure. We've added millions of gallons of storage, which was an issue for us before. We didn't have above-ground storage, which was not only a supply issue, but a pressurization issue that has been addressed over these years of time while we're waiting. And we've also built 2 iron filtration, iron treatment plants, which is really the big culprit in water complaints when it talks about brown water. So a lot of good things have not been talked about by residents at the podium, unfortunately. And while I appreciate the concerns of not only the resident who spoke tonight, but everyone who has a concern, I want to point to the fact that it's been many years of hard work by you primarily, and a lot of awareness on our part for what the residents are looking for from a water quality and supply standpoint. And significant gains have been made over these last several years, and that should be stated for the record. So, thank you.
I appreciate that, Sean, but I'm not looking for anything. I just want to get this water built. That's what.
John, I'd like to point out, too, that Sean O'Neill stole my notes on the way in, and that's exactly what I was going to say.
I found him on the sidewalk.
Yeah, oh, did you?
I figured
Okay.
it was yours, man.
Yes.
Well, thank you guys, but we will get this back on, I promise you. It'll be the best it'll ever be. Sean, you went and looked at the plan. Is it not an impressive place?
It is.
It's just the most impressive thing. I'd love to take residents and show them what kind of plant this is. It's very complicated. It's really cool. It really is cool. We just got to get it back online, get it softening. And this is one of 2. Once we get the second one on, you'll never have to worry about soft water. So.
You might want to mention they need to change their hours for their sprinklers.
Well, it's just, we have the 5 to 9 sprinkler situation going on where everybody takes showers, they laundry, they come home from work, 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock, the water goes right up. We empty our tanks, and we were pumping at one time, about 2 weeks ago, we were pumping 8,000 gallons a minute. Now you have to understand, 8,000 gallons a minute of water and losing water in our towers. So that's both plants at capacity and losing water in our towers. That's how much we were using. So, when you say you have a plant that can produce 10 million gallons a day, you have to remember that's 10 million gallons over 24 hours. We were using that much in like 3 hours. It's crazy. But we have the capacity that we don't have a problem with water. We just we want to get it to the next step. We'll get there. Well, thanks everybody for listening to my babble.
Yeah, thanks, John. I want to say the same thing. I remember just when we were starting off and looking at GLWA, and there's I think somebody else in there too, rebuilding the existing plants and going with AOP. It was an absolute right move, and appreciate your hard work on it.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for understanding. It's just a tough thing. It's a big job. It's a big job. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, and we're going to move on. That concludes the reports. We're going to move on to unfinished business, and these are second readings, I believe.
Yes.
The peddlers, canvassers, food trucks. So we want to make a motion. I mean, nothing's changed, right? Carol, it's all the
There's
same?
only, with the food truck ordinance, based on one of the issues that Sean brought up last month, I did add a clarification sentence in the actual definition, just to make sure there would be no confusion.
It's right on the first page.
Yeah.
Does everyone look at that and agree with it? Okay, motion be in order then.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 01-23, and this is Code of Ordinances, Chapter 32, Peddlers, Canvassers, and Solicitors, Article 1, definition of food truck, to add new Article 6, food trucks, to set forth regulations for food trucks and to provide penalties for violations thereof.
I'll support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're going to move on to item B, which is a consideration of the landscape standards for tall buildings. Again, I believe this is second reading.
I'll move the adoption of ordinance 02-23.
I'll support that.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and our third, second reading is the amend the accessory structures text amendment.
We did have one change to this ordinance, which is on page 7, subsection 9, miscellaneous structures not noted. I think Sean had commented the language before was a little bit unclear, so we wanted to make it clear that things that are at grade, your gardens, your lawn decorations, that sort of thing, are not subject to any setbacks. But if you've got trellises or arbors or things that are more permanent in nature, they would be subject to the setbacks. Other
Okay.
than that, everything else is unchanged.
Everyone agree with that?
Yes.
Sean, it was your idea.
Oh, wow. I'll just move it along. I'll move the adoption of ordinance 03-23, which deals with the amendment to accessory structure section of the ordinance.
I'll support.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that concludes unfinished business. We're going to move on to new business, which will be the consideration of approved resolution 2320, declaring official intent to reimburse project expenditures with bond proceeds. That's Eric. Come on up.
Mr. Supervisor, members of the board, this resolution is a procedural resolution. It just seeks to qualify eventual receipt of bond proceeds for reimbursement of prior expenditures. So we're anticipating the township will issue bonds to finance the construction of the library facilities. From now until then, though, there will be some expenditures made. This resolution will allow, if the township spends any of its own funds before those bonds are issued, it will allow the township to take bond proceeds when they are received and allocate them to reimbursing the township for those prior expenditures. So it's a resolution that's required by the tax code. It doesn't require you to do anything, doesn't require any bonds to be issued, doesn't require bonds to be issued in any amount, just simply lets you use that money when you receive it to reimburse expenditures made along the way for constructing the project.
Okay. Any questions about this resolution?
I just want to clarify, and I talked to a couple library board members, and Eric, just to confirm, the library passed a similar resolution, so they have the ability to, some of these upfront costs be reimbursed by the bond as well.
They did.
Pretty standard, right?
They did. It's a standard approach when you have two public bodies that are spending their own funds for the completion of a project. You have them both adopt a resolution to cover both bases.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Motion to be in order.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2023-20, declaring official intent to reimburse project expenditures with bond proceeds.
Support.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you, Eric, for coming. Appreciate that.
All right, we're going to move on. Sterling Trails Special Land Use, AP 2336. Yeah, 36.
Thank you, John. I did not put this up on the screen, but correct me if you'd like to. The Township Board has seen this project before. So Sterling Trail is a 46-unit, single-family home average lot size development on the property that's immediately south of Saddle Creek along Pontiac Trail. And this is an average lot size development, which means it qualifies as a special land use under your ordinance. Public hearing was held by the Planning Commission on May 22nd with a recommendation to the Township Board to approve the project. There's no additional density requested beyond what would be permitted under existing zoning. The average lot size option allows for the lots to be slightly smaller than the ordinance permits, and in return, the amount of space that is decreased per lot gets dedicated as open space. So we have no concerns from a Planning Commission perspective or from a staff perspective. The Planning Commission's recommendation for approval was subject to requesting that Lombardo pursue a sidewalk connection to the cul-de-sac immediately to the south of the property in Trotter's Point, which I know the applicants are here this evening and can speak to that, but we've been privy to communications between Trotters Point HOA and Lombardo, and it sounds like that connection is going to be made. So that's a good improvement and would meet the condition of the Planning Commission. So with that, we would recommend approval, subject to our letter dated June 28th.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Leslie, you want to add anything?
Just one comment. In our letter dated June 26th, the engineering standards and utility ordinance require water main extended to property limits. This project is showing the water main extension only to Calumet and then throughout the development and then connecting to Saddle Creek. Since there is no township land south of this development, I don't have any objection with their plan. I just wanted to point that out, and it's my understanding if you approve the special land use as is, it would approve it per the water main as shown on the plans. So, just
Okay.
wanted to mention that.
Hi, Amy Ackerman. I'm here from Lombardo Homes. And Jason Emrine's here as our engineer from Seabrook East. I do have a presentation. I don't know if we necessarily need to go through it. This is the exact same plan you saw a couple years ago. There have been no changes made to it.
Does anyone want to see this again? You all good with what we're doing here?
I'm good. I'm not offended.
No. I'm just making sure everybody's happy with it, because we need to get through this.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a couple questions.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
let's ask the questions. Go ahead and ask any questions.
Lead 'em.
So, from actually, it was a question from also last time, and maybe Brian can help too, but we had looked at the pathways connection along Pontiac Trail to the existing boardwalk. Is the connection proposed at the cul-de-sac in addition to that, or is that in lieu of the connection along Pontiac Trail?
I think you guys, what you went through last time was the fact that it doesn't connect, it doesn't go to the right of way, it doesn't go to the property line. And you're talking about a public sidewalk connecting to a private boardwalk. So the discussion, and my understanding was last time that it was agreed that that didn't make any sense. This is kind of in lieu of making that connection. So essentially, the cul-de-sac that's on the south, we're going to connect to their cul-de-sac, and that'll allow people to kind of go through, especially if they're students and whatnot, was what I think the Planning Commission had in mind. So kind of a way to get that done without doing it in a complicated manner with the boardwalk.
And Chris, we can confirm, or we did confirm, that that boardwalk is about
It's short,
6 to 8
yeah.
feet shy of the property line. So we would have to, Trotters Point would be required to give an easement for that connection, which they weren't really interested in doing. And then there's the practical matter that that boardwalk is in really, really bad shape. So funneling pedestrian traffic to it is not ideal.
Okay. And as far as the utility service, I guess if there's hydrants and stuff along internally and fire marshal's okay with it, then I guess I don't see an issue of running a dead-end water main down there, so.
That all the properties would have fire protection.
Okay. Anyone
John,
else?
I just have a question.
Go ahead, please.
Regarding that sidewalk connection. Is there going to be any kind of signage to indicate that, like back in the day of my bike riding days, you could see those, I know, not the one with the big tire in the front, Sean.
Yeah,
but,
like the basket with the Orphan Toto.
Those green signs that would say like a bike path, that would indicate if you're riding somewhere, if you needed to get through a subdivision, they would have these bike paths. Do you know what I'm talking about? Green signs.
Like a little
yeah.
detour sign.
So if somebody is walking down the sidewalk or walking south and they wanted to get through to that connection, is there any way that a normal resident would know that it was there? I mean, obviously, if you live there, you would know.
You mean so like from along the sidewalk along Pontiac Trail?
Yeah, like right.
So you turn them in here?
Yes.
And go that way.
Is there any, I mean, I know where they are all throughout Troy, because that's where I grew up, but it would say like your sidewalk path, so if you're riding your bike in the neighborhood, if you just keep following those green signs, you'll get through, just to indicate to somebody that they're not going to continue going south and then end up in the swamp.
The only thing that concerns me about that is, again, taking private people that are on the public sidewalk into a neighborhood. Now, I know these are public sidewalks and roads. No, there was not any intent at this point to have a sign like that.
Is there like any potential for something like that? So that, I mean, if you're saying that the connection is being fulfilled by cul-de-sac to cul-de-sac, I think that's a great solution to that boardwalk condition, and then that gap. But if people don't know that that sidewalk connection is available to them for them to continue south, it kind of like just dumps them.
Yeah, I think the intent of the sidewalk connection from within the subdivisions was more for, again, because there's the students or kids or whatever that might be within Sterling Trail, because the school being to the south, that they might go through there. I don't know that it was intended necessarily for the people from Pontiac Trail to come through the neighborhoods and I can't, I'm speaking for our particular subdivision, but I don't know if Trotter's Point also wants people to come off of Pontiac Trail necessarily and come through the subdivision. I'm just a little hesitant about bringing public people that aren't within the neighborhood in through two neighborhoods.
But they're on a public road. And
Yeah.
going into another, I mean, Trotter's Point has public roads. I mean, it's a public, I guess.
I totally understand what you're saying. I'm just playing the other side of a little bit where.
I get that.
Yeah,
I'm just saying that if we're going to say, hey, here's the connection, the solution for not connecting this path to the boardwalk, then.
Well, you know what? Let me back that up a little bit. It's not the solution. It's not to fix that solution, because that solution isn't necessarily fixable, because it's the boardwalk's in disarray and it doesn't come to the right of way, it doesn't come to the side, or it doesn't come to the property line. This was more in the planning commission. It was suggested that, hey, is there a way that you guys can connect through a walking path, a walking trail? Can you connect those two? With the idea that it was neighborhood to neighborhood, school, student to student, being able to walk through. I don't necessarily, the intent is that it's connecting, doing what the Pontiac Trail sidewalk isn't doing.
Right, but if you happen to live in that same subdivision and you happen to live on Palomino Court, you don't know that connection is around. I mean, if you're in Palomino Court and you happen to take the sidewalk south along Pontiac Trail, I mean, it'll end like it's always ended, except it'll end a little bit further down because we're going to connect it through our sidewalk. And, and again, we run into trouble because it's South Lyon. Right.
If it was Lyon Township to the south of us, it's a little different too. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
I would like a sign.
Okay. I hear what you're saying. It makes me nervous to do that, but okay.
Okay. Then I appreciate your answer, and it makes me nervous to vote yes if we can't put a sign down.
I understand.
Where's the sign going? Maybe?
I'm just saying, like, potentially
At
like
the
Calumet Boulevard, where somebody's going to realize,
right back.
if I'm
To direct people through.
tooling down that sidewalk, if I want to get to the high school safely, where I'm not going to cross over to that Carriage Trace, I have a way to get there. I just have to go down Triple Crown Drive to that cul-de-sac. God, I can't remember.
It's Gallup Lane.
Yeah. I would like a sign somewhere indicating that somebody could actually continue on their.
But Lisa,
walk.
can I just say something? Because I hate to tell you, I don't agree with you.
That's fine.
I'm just saying, if I were in that neighborhood, we had a long discussion at the Planning Commission, and I get it, but they had a hard enough time, and I know, to get approval from Trotter's Point, just to connect the two
Cul-de-sacs.
the cul-de-sacs. And that's because we convinced them, that they convinced them, that it would be great because those kids probably go to school together. And that would be an easy way to ride their bikes through, trick or treat, go to your friend's house. But I don't know if I were in a subdivision, if I would like that. I don't think I want strange people coming through I mean, I know they're public roads, but that's not the intent. And I just, you're not, that's just me. I mean, I wouldn't want that. So I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but I don't want to support that because I don't think the people in that would like that. I wouldn't like that.
I have a suggestion that just came to me, if you're interested. I think originally the intent, a couple of years ago, was to connect to this boardwalk. But this is a huge wetland complex here that I don't think will ever get extended.
Never.
That
Would it
never.
make sense to just stop it here, and then this is the natural, and if people find their way, they find their way, because it's...
I was actually going to say, as much as I'm normally against
Not
omitting
sidewalking. Yeah.
sidewalk frontage,
Yeah.
in this context, because, like Leslie's saying, the large wetlands,
And then it's up
if
to
that's
them,
never
but
going to
I,
be
you're not gonna,
continued,
they come this way, come through our
Obvious.
neighborhood.
Right, I mean,
I just don't.
I think it gives the
Yeah.
impression if you have a sidewalk that it's going to end up somewhere, and if there's going to be just a stop, that's why I thought if you could turn into Calumet before that, but if we have them take out that sidewalk segment and then make a contribution to the sidewalk committee, or a sidewalk
Yes.
fund,
This might make
I
more
would-
sense in this case.
I think that that's a reasonable thing to do.
Way to handle
simply Because then there isn't, they're going to see, hey, there's nowhere left to go.
You don't need a sign, it's just, that's where it connects. And
Where are you
just
going to
limit-
terminate?
You would
At
not
Calumet.
include these
Boulevard.
ADA ramps, and you would just terminate going in and eliminate everything from here south. So there'd be no ADA ramps, there'd be nothing, because if you have a ramp on this side, you have to have one on this
Right.
side. So that's what I would suggest.
Is
So
there
there's-
any, I can't see it from here. I'm
Can
looking.
you want me to flip this
is there no
monitor?
sidewalk on the south side of the Calumet Boulevard?
That's what I'm
entrance?
wondering.
There is
No.
not,
Okay.
as shown on
All right,
here.
then-
It's
then
never
that
been
makes
shown,
sense.
right?
Just here.
Correct. Yeah,
So
the
all you're doing
plans
is getting rid
exist.
of the landing on the other side and then dealing with it as a sidewalk fund contribution. That's what you said, Lisa and Robert.
I like that idea in this
Okay.
case, yeah.
I just don't want somebody to get the wrong impression that they can continue there and then they hit,
And I've been on those sidewalks and you're just like, and then you're
and I
stopped.
do appreciate that.
We have them all over the
comment of not
township.
wanting to have people,
Yeah.
people, you know,
Well, and it's, as Patty was saying, like, part of our communication with Trotters was, hey, you got to make sure that the people who's never have had a sidewalk, now there's going to be a sidewalk coming through, we want to know that they're okay with it. So, I mean, we've been going back and forth on it, so I don't want to, upset them as well, so.
That section that we'd even be trying to connect to is in the city, so we have no control over it. And it would be a boardwalk for hundreds and hundreds of yards. Right at the, I mean, it would be expensive, it would be, and none of their folks would use it. It would be connecting township residents. And so if I'm the city council, I'm going to say, I'm not going to spend $500,000 on a boardwalk so the township, I'm not saying, I'm just saying that it doesn't benefit their residents.
Philosophically,
It would
yeah.
benefit our residents, so
Right.
I understand why that wouldn't likely
Yeah,
come to fruition unless.
Wetland boardwalks are they're a headache.
There's also
They're
no-
expensive and they're hard to maintain. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I assume there's also no practicality of like any kind of mid-block crossing along that section, right?
I don't know if you'd get
On Pontiac Trail?
I don't think they would approve
Be
that.
taking a life in your hands.
I'm just saying that's the only
Are
reason
you
it could make any
crazy?
sense to go
Was the
further
one
south.
that the road commission suggested.
I don't think the road commission would
Okay,
approve that.
I agree, I just wanted to
Yeah, it's-
rule out any purpose
Right.
for that segment before we say get rid of it. So,
Now, I've run into a similar situation on Kirkway where I kept going in at a dead end, had to turn around and go back into the neighborhood. So I understand this is probably a good solution with the, I agree, if you get the monies donated to the sidewalk fund, eliminated to the south, then there's probably no need for a sign. I'm really happy for a connection because looking at this, there would be no way we could feasibly get the township residents to the high school without a very expensive boardwalk through the city, and as mentioned, that probably isn't high on the priority list. So this is a good alternative.
Okay, well, I think we're all in kind of agreement, I hope. Lise, you good?
yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the special land use associated with AP 23-36B. I will cite the McKenna letter dated 6/28 and the CES letter dated
June 26th?
June 26th. Thank you, because I was clicking over, my computer's really slow. And also citing the planning commission's recommendation supporting this action, and that the sidewalk that was a condition of the approval will also become a condition of this approval.
Okay.
and I guess, is that enough
And
to
the
include the
sidewalk?
replacement of that segment with the contribution?
And, yes.
South of Calumet?
Yes.
Thank you, yes, and including the removal of the sidewalk, frontage sidewalk south of Calumet, and instead allow a contribution to the sidewalk fund to be made in its place.
Good with that?
We're good
I'll
with it.
support.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
All right, we're going to move on to Aspen Trails PD Final Review, AP 2259. Brian, start that one out?
Okay, another project that you as the board have seen before. We are on our final review of the Aspen Trails PD, which is a 78-unit single-family development on 43 acres on Martindale with some frontage on Pontiac Trail, although the Pontiac Trail frontage will not be for vehicles. The only ingress-egress for vehicles is off of Martindale Road. Nothing has significantly changed since the preliminary review, and the Planning Commission held their review on June 12th. At that time, they recommended approval on finding no issues with the plan, and per our letter dated June 29th, we also recommend approval. This is a project that meets your master plan, includes a lot of open space, almost 18 acres, and should be a good improvement for the community. And an added bonus being that a portion of Martindale Road will be paved as part of the community benefit for this project. So with that, we do recommend approval. The Planning Commission did the same, and I can answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Leslie, you want to add anything, or just your letter?
Just, I would ask that any approval reference our letter of June 26th.
Okay. Now, this one has been here, what, this is the fifth time?
Exactly the same.
So, I don't know what else we can talk about.
You had a thing in there about the sewer review of the pump station, and that it just, did we get that?
No, they'll do that, they'll do another detailed engineering of whatever they're changing, and it'll go through the operator as well.
All right, and then, I don't know if you know this, Brian, but at some point I seem to remember about the pedestrian connection into Cobblestone. There was talk about, you know, would there be bollards there, would there be something? And looking at the plan, I don't really see what that treatment may or may not be.
I don't believe they proposed any bollards. I believe it's just a 5-foot concrete walk. They do show a boulder retaining wall that has to extend to the road to Cobblestone.
Okay. I'm not familiar with the topography, but I mean, as long as we're not concerned that somebody's going to try and drive down there, there might actually, I think there's still
yeah, they're still showing
the guardrail thing at the end of that street, and if that's not planned to be removed, then I guess that's fine. I just didn't know which way that looked.
Okay. Good? Yes.
Brian, I had a couple questions. One, and Robert kind of confirmed that the sidewalk connection to Cobblestone is just sidewalk connection on the plans. And then the connection to the north, they're still showing that T turnaround. I guess I just want to make sure it's temporary and that there's a full vehicular and pedestrian connection to the north, so it meets that end ordinance.
It is, yes. The connection goes into Twin Pines, as well as connecting to the sidewalk network up there.
The turnaround would be permanent, though, because these are public roads and Twin Pines are private, so for plowing, et cetera, that turnaround would be permanent.
Okay. And is this the first reading of final?
Correct.
And so I guess then, so we don't have the PD agreement within the packet yet, so but that'll be available for second reading?
Yeah, we can make it available. It's been reviewed. I think we're in good shape, right, Carol?
Yeah,
I don't
it's
think
done.
we have anything
We'll just have to
else
fill in
add to
the
it.
dates of these final meetings, but it's done.
Correct.
Is it, I guess we'll see it at the next meeting then?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Everybody good with it? Motion to be in order.
Make a motion to approve Aspen Trail PD first reading, AP 22-59. Just making sure the PD agreement is available at the next meeting for review.
I'll support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
You opposed? All right. Moving on. Sun Outdoors Hoss Lake Park, Education Trail and Dinosaur Park, special land use. Okay, who wants to take that one? Brian, is that you?
Yes, I can take that. So we have a unique special land use for consideration this evening. You may or may not know Sun Communities has taken over operation of Haas Lake Park, and one of the first projects that they're bringing to the township is a dinosaur walk nature trail. So if you're familiar with the park at all, this is Haas Lake Road, Haas Road to the north, and right smack in the middle of the property is a small wetland, and this proposal is going to be right on the north edge of that wetland complex. Oops, sorry about that. For what it's worth, Eagle has approved these plans already. They don't have any concerns that would stop the project in proximity to the wetland. You can see, based on the trails, there is a boardwalk that is proposed through the wetland, but most of the pedestrian traffic is going to be up on the upland area and around the wetland. So the big consideration, or the big area of interest, is animatronic dinosaurs. So they're a cool, unique feature. You should have in your packet the dimensions of all of these structures, the tallest of which is 40 feet in height. One of the things that we noted in our review is that the area that these tall structures are going to be is about 1,700 feet from adjacent properties. So that was one of the considerations by the Planning Commission. Was one, whether or not these are going to be visible from off-site, and then two, whether or not these were going to be loud or be able to be heard from off-site. The answer to that is there are a fair amount of tree stands if we look back at the aerial view from adjacent properties. Got large tree stands here to the south and southwest, the golf course to the east, but then more trees to the northwest as well. And then sound is controlled and will be limited to just loud enough for users of the trail to hear any sounds that come out of those structures. So in regard to that, one of the Planning Commission's criteria was that all of these comply with our local noise ordinances, which deal with noise at the property lines. So that is one thing that we would look for in any compliance request in the future. The Planning Commission also limited the hours of operation from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., which I believe was one of the things that you had offered as part of the conditions in any event. The Planning Commission also wanted to make sure that all of the trails themselves were ADA compliant, which will be confirmed during the detailed engineering phase. And then, let's see, the use of this trail would be limited to guests of the park only. So it's not open to the public, which was one of our main concerns in terms of traffic coming down Haas Road, coming into the property. But that is not the case. These will be paying guests only. And if you read the narrative, this will be an additional cost to those guests. So the use will be fairly limited. We're not really worried about additional traffic or intensity of use on this project. So based on that concern, are those conditions, I'm sorry, there was one other condition from the Planning Commission. One of the commissioners wanted us to confirm that there are no PFAS implications with these structures, and so we'll make sure that that gets confirmed administratively. Beyond that, the Planning Commission held the required public hearing on June 12th. They did recommend approval to the Township Board, and based on our review dated June 29th, we recommend the same. I'll take any questions that you might have.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Leslie, you have a letter in there, anything you want to talk about?
Just a couple of additional items. Our letter is also dated June 26th. We point out that the ADA compliant parking spaces must be paved. Gravel is not allowed for those spaces. The walking paths are proposed as limestone, and that can meet the ADA requirements, so we don't have an objection to that since it's limited to their visitors. The building permits will be required for the boardwalks, the climbing wall, everything with the foundation, and there's a lot of things on here with the foundation, so Dave's department will be seeing a bunch of plans come through for this if it's approved. And under utilities, I didn't even want to say it's a big concern, but the plans show sewage basically using a holding tank without a septic field. So I would request that the applicant apply to the health division because it's very possible they will require a septic field or pumping to the existing. So that should be an item that's checked off the list. And regarding PFAS, as Brian mentioned, the applicant has already provided the MSDS sheets, and from everything we've received, there are not any PFAS or PFOA chemicals, so that concern has already been eliminated from our office. That concludes the additional items.
Okay. Is the applicant here? You want to come on up and kind of give us a little idea what you're trying to do?
Absolutely. Good evening. Thanks for having me. My name is Spencer Crabb with Atwell. I'm joined by representatives from Sun Communities and from Donaldson Design, who designed the overall nature walk. I have additional exhibits if we need to pull them up or anything, Brian, that were all included in the original packet. As Brian mentioned, we are proposing an interactive nature walk and dinosaur trail. It's about a quarter mile to a half mile long, weaving around the existing wetland with a portion of a boardwalk crossing over it. As Brian mentioned, we've worked with Eagle on mapping the wetlands as well as potentially permitting those for that crossing, making sure that they were okay with the intended use as well. Throughout the trail, there are various dinosaurs, all animatronic, that the guests will be able to semi-interact with as you're walking through. There are motion detectors that will activate them so they're not running all the time, creating noise. As Brian did mention, the nearest home is about a third of a mile away, 1,700 feet to the south. In between it, a lot of trees and the wastewater treatment plant as well. So there's quite the distance from any neighbors. This would be an additional amenity to the guests. What Sun really is intending to do here is to try and link fun and entertainment with education. And they see this as a great opportunity, having their headquarters based out of Southfield. They think that this is a great test market as well for this, and potentially utilizing this at some of their other RV resorts. Other than that, if I can answer any specific questions.
I'm going to go ahead and open it up, and we'll see if we have any questions. Anybody want to start? No questions?
Sure.
I'll be honest, I think it's cool.
Me too.
I'm
I think it's
actually kind
really
of
cool.
disappointed that it's not public, because I think it would be fun. I guess I'll just have to come stay. But
How loud are these? I mean, are they?
So Eric can speak a little more specifically to that. Yeah, the idea is as you walk through the path, they're interacting with you, but you have to remember there's other dinosaurs along the path, right, so that they're not competing, but there's also guests in the area with sites just to the kind of bottom left corner there.
So it wouldn't be a good idea to make them super loud. You're take
Exactly.
your people and some of
Guest
the people in
experience.
the houses.
First is health and safety, and then the second is guest experience, always with the major concerns on site. So
I think it's
ensuring
cool.
that
I think it's
people
cool.
aren't disturbed at sites.
I'd love to see it. So.
And the volumes for every exhibit are individually controlled. So if we find that one's a little too loud or they can be adjusted. And it is a directional cone that I got a little more information since the last meeting, but the sound dies off away from the cone. So when you're in front of it, you get the bulk of the sound. Everything behind it pretty much just goes to ambient noise.
It's probably like going into any nature trail. You know, you get right in front of it, push the button, you use your and it speaks right to you, and then you move on to the next one.
Yeah, they're designed for museums and exhibits and Disney, and so it's the same technology.
I think it's great.
I do too. I love it.
Just one more compliment on, I like the use of the Michigan plants in the pollinator gardens, and then a brief question of alternate pathway being labeled on the plan. Is that an alternate option for you to construct, or is that like another route someone could choose to take?
That was an original plan before we went into the Eagle process to see if for some reason they weren't going to allow us to go across the wetlands, alternate path. So that can be omitted at this point.
Okay.
Okay, anyone want to make a motion to move this forward?
Sure. I will make a motion to approve the special land use in case AP 23-29 based upon and subject to the consultant review letters and the planning commission recommendation.
Okay,
I'll support.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Let's put them dinosaurs in, that's cool.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Have a great evening.
You too.
All right, we're going to move on. Consideration of approval of the agreement with South Lyons Schools for the senior service and authorize the supervisor and clerk to execute the agreement. Now, basically what this is, and Carol's worked on this because she works with all three communities, which is very cool. So we kind of made this a one size kind of fits all other than the actual monies that we're liable for. Okay? And if you look, there's a formula to get to the numbers. And we use a 5-year average because, that's the right thing to do. Instead, get spike one year, not the other, participation. In our budget, it takes $117,000 to run the senior center a year, which averages out to about $15 a senior. Now, in our situation, we have the block grants that pays for probably most half of it, right?
Yeah, it's about 15 usually.
Yeah, about 15. And we came up with 2,200 residents have used the facility in an average year. So if we take the 2,200 and we multiply it times the 15, we come out with our share at about $34,000 rounded up, okay? And as you can see on the agreement, the city of South Lyon is the most. They have the most residents using it. They're at 56.2, and Green Oak Township is at 26.8. And with our contribution of 34, it brings us to the 117 that we need to run the senior center. So this is a really good, a lot of people use the senior center and are very happy with it. And it's just a really good service that our township can actually give our residents. And for, $7 a resident, it's amazing. It's an amazing service.
Is the 2,200 actually like unique users or visits?
2,200 users. And it costs us about $15 per user, which is very inexpensive for a service the township can give to our seniors. I think it's just amazing. So that's what this is.
John, I'll move the approval of the agreement with South Lyons Schools for senior services and authorize the supervisor and clerk to execute the agreement.
Support.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving on. Thanks, the seniors love that. All right, we're going to go to the consideration regarding the Emergency Medical Service Mutual Aid Agreement between Brighton Area Fire Authority and to authorize the supervisor and clerk to sign. Did you want to say anything? It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward, and everyone understand it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, my own question is, it's relating to ambulance service, right? So is this anything different than what we do with HVA? Is this, does that interrelate, or is this?
It's really not that much different, other than Brighton put in a request because they're getting 2 transport-capable ambulances, so they needed a mutual aid agreement with their closest BLS partner, which is us. And so that was, the state wanted to have that mutual aid agreement. But it's if HVA is not available and we are, then that will be, or Livingston, they use Livingston County EMS. So we're just going to continue doing what we've been doing, but now it's more formalized.
Okay.
Okay, is that good? All right, motion be in order.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2023-18 approving emergency medical service mutual aid agreement between Brighton Area Fire Authority and Charter Township of Lyon.
Support. All those in favor say aye.
Can I just...
Oh, go ahead, please.
Would your motion be able to include the authorize the supervisor and clerk to sign?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
All right. We have a second, right? Okay.
Yes, Robert.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. All right, we're moving on. The consideration to approve a purchase of a skid loader for the maintenance department. And Derek is here to explain the uses that we can have for these, and he went out and got 3 different costs for this, and we really like the Michigan Cat.
Yeah. Good
Michigan Cat
evening.
includes
Good
a-
evening, everybody. So I've been here for a few months now and just going over more of the properties and seeing more of the things that the township has. I just think we could get a lot of use out of having a skid steer. John was talking about the Woodwind water plant earlier and wanted to take people on a tour. And maybe not yet. If we get a skid steer, we can move some of that dirt around and level it out, get some grass. Patty called me today. Was something that came up, and if we had a skid steer, I could have addressed her concerns. You know, just a lot of uses. We got 3 prices from different companies, and it just seems like Cat is probably the best one. They invited us out, did a demo. Some of the standard options, like a rear backup camera and a screen for all your controls, just seemed like good fit.
And I can stand behind the Caterpillars. That's what we use at our company, and they're amazing little skid loaders. One of the, I mean, the options that you have also, you had some pallet forks?
Yeah, so we would get, just right out of the gate, we would get a bucket and pallet forks.
The pallet forks are important because we get deliveries constantly of things that we can't unload, and we end up having to unload them by hand.
Yeah, and the way they were doing it, they were backing a pickup truck to the delivery truck, unloading it into that, getting it closer to the door, and I said, you know, there's a better way to do this. And now, with building the DPW up, I just see we'll keep finding uses for this machine.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've noticed, but, you know, I'm going to pat Derek on the back. He's made this township look amazing. He's been really working hard, and man, does it look, it looks the best that I've ever seen it.
I appreciate that.
I
Thank you.
appreciate that. It's been really good.
If the board would consider too, I'd like to, if we approve it, I'd like to use it, the ARPA funds.
Yeah.
Because we have quite a bit to spend, so.
Have we bought some other DPW
Yes.
things
Yep.
and the ladder truck with our funds,
Yep,
right?
yep,
So-
yep, and the trail.
Derek, can I ask a quick question? You mentioned the bucket and the forks. That comes with it for the price that you have
Yes,
listed.
that's included with the price right now, and a trailer.
As well as a trailer, which is a big deal, and it's in stock, which is probably the biggest deal.
That was one of the biggest deals,
That's my
actually,
question
in
today.
stock.
Can you fix this for me? He goes, well, I go, how soon if they approve it tonight? He goes, well, I can get it tomorrow. I go, that would be, it's the thing on the bike path, on the trail.
This is probably in there somewhere, and I'm not seeing it right now, but that trailer, just to clarify, is it to load the skid steer onto this trailer, or is it a trailer pulled
That's
by the
correct,
skid?
to load it onto and transport it around. And then we can also use the trailer for other things like trees. Once we get to replacing some of the trees around Township Hall, we'll be able to load them on that trailer, where we currently don't have one for that.
I'll make a motion per the letter dated June 21st from the DPW maintenance supervisor to purchase from Michigan Cat a skid steer for a price not to exceed $95,471, including many of the features, accessories, and trailers, trailer that we mentioned tonight. And subject, or I should say, per the recommendation of the treasurer, I would like to include that my motion that we use ARPA funds to make this purchase.
I'll support that.
Nope.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who gets somebody else? Oh, Lisa,
I don't
go
care.
ahead.
Who gets
Go
the
ahead.
Put you on the
support?
record?
Oh, you go.
Sure.
Okay.
I didn't
All right,
hear.
we have a motion in support. All those in favor?
Did I say, I said 95,470?
Yep.
Yes, you did say that,
Okay.
yes.
Yep.
Yeah, 95.
I thought so, thank you.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, now we're going to move on to the request for the salary adjustments. And I know, Patty, you've worked very hard on this, and, you know, and I appreciate it if you explain it.
I will. So during the budget talks, we came up kind of short for some explanations of why we were wanting to give some salary adjustments. So I've spoken to several of the members separately, just trying to get it all together. And I know Michelle did the top letter for us. And then I did a lot of, I wanted to give you our valuation so that you could see our taxable value and our assessed value, how we've grown over the last 7 years. I can produce even more years of that if you want. But I thought it showed a good snapshot of how fast the township has grown. And when I started doing the research of calling around, I was very lucky that Milford had paid to have an actual company do a salary study for them. And I know they paid $10,000 for it because I asked Cindy. And she was kind enough to share that with us, which was many of the communities that I was already calling around for. And she actually shared that with us. And in my letter, I wrote that I called the Independence Township also and Oakland Township, and they were quite different than us as far as how they compensate their employees. So, I mean, I'm here to answer any questions. John and I and Michelle have been over this, and we're just hoping that you see, which I know you do, but the value in, we truly believe that a lot of our employees are well underpaid, according to the figures that I was able to produce. So that's actually...
Okay, well, let's open it up for conversation.
Yeah, I don't mind starting this off quickly, and I think this is good, and there's a lot of information here. I personally haven't had time to digest it all. I think there was 24 different pieces of information, and unfortunately, time and holiday weekend, I guess I didn't have time to really dive into it. And noting that we do have an MTA salary study for Oakland County from 2021, that might help in the process too. I guess this is going to be, if this is going to be retroactive to January, I wouldn't mind taking some more time to look at it and coming back to this next month if that's possible.
I was going to also kind of express similar things just because, I mean, it only showed up on Thursday. I know it was a lot of work, and I don't want to just not read all of your work. I want to understand. I haven't seen anything that makes me disagree with anything in it. I just would appreciate being able to get through it in more detail first. But I don't know. That's just two of us so far, so I don't know what everybody else thinks.
I had a chance to go through it, and I guess I'll say if people want to move ahead with it, I'm ready to move on it tonight. If people want to wait, we can wait. It's up to.
I'd like to move forward. They've been waiting a long time. I'd like to move forward. I'd like to get it done. I mean, we wanted to get these guys up, and
I'm sorry I couldn't get it to you before, but I'm going to tell you, I had to get the tax bills out. We had to get the audit done. We had to get the qualifying statements out. And I promised that I would get this done and on the board by July 1st. And Michelle and I stayed late every single night to work on this. So I hate to disappoint our employees again, but that's totally up to this board. I would like to move forward. I think they're more deserving than you can ever imagine, and I know I say that all the time, and everybody says, yes, I know they do great jobs, but I just know we have an exceptional staff, and I really don't want to lose anybody. And I heard a couple of rumblings that really, bothered me. And we don't want to lose our employees. They're phenomenal, and they don't make any money. How do you live on $37,000?
Yeah, I want to say.
But it's a 7-member board. John and I and Michelle live it every day, and I mean, I know even Lisa's made a lot of really nice compliments about our staff, and saying that, I know she had mentioned that she felt some of them were very underpaid too. So I hope you don't mind that I said that. But
no, I don't mind.
But you've been very good about doing that, and our staff really does appreciate that, by the way. And
I would just say that, I'm comfortable with, I've had a chance to look at the material. and I'm comfortable with making a decision tonight. I do want to comment, where the heck did it go now? So for example, and I don't want to call one person out individually, but based on the individual, but just like looking at the actual job situation or the position. To have someone who is at the front desk, and I believe she lives in the area, but to have someone in our community, somebody working for our township office, who was only making 30, and I think I said this at the budget workshop, it's embarrassing that we are paying somebody $36,000 per year. And to bring her up to $40,000, I think is absolutely fair. I think it's unconscionable that we have some salary, excuse me, that we have salary as low as $36,000. You can work at fast food restaurant, essentially making that. I am comfortable with making a decision on all of these, but specifically, I did want to acknowledge that a front desk associate, excuse me, an associate is the face of our township. When somebody comes in and they're not sure which department to go to, they're going to go to that front desk, and it's to me a key role that a salary should be more appropriate. And I also just wanted to comment that I liked the selection. I've contacted Independence Township as well for different things, and I think that finding a neighboring community like Milford is an appropriate way to begin. So I am comfortable with this request.
I just want to say one thing, because it was really, you don't really understand our staff until you work with them, until you really see the jobs that they do. So I know you know, Sean, because the young gentleman that came in to interview me for the class, Mason, I think his name? Is his name Mason? So he came in, and there was 3 of them actually, and they interviewed me how the politics works in a small town. And they had been to several other cities and townships to interview others around the neighborhoods, right? So he came in, and I was running a little bit late. I had somebody in the office, and when I finally got in to talk to him, he said, "I can't believe how friendly everyone has been in here." I go, "Why?" He goes, "I've just been through all these other townships, and I felt like I was disturbing everybody. They'd come in, and they said, 'What do you want?' Oh, sit over there." And he said, "I have never felt so welcomed in a township or city that we've been to." And that made me feel pretty darn good. We have a pretty good staff that's pretty happy most of the time. And we don't want to lose any of them. They're just amazing people. We like to stand behind them. And just that's our backbone. That's the people who do all the work.
Do you think we have to call them out?
But that's all I have to say.
No, I don't. I wouldn't think not. But I just want to say, just because I only commented on what we would do or maybe not do tonight, but this is a kind of feedback. It didn't have to be extensive. It could be a paragraph here or there that I was looking for back in the fall, because I think that if you're going to take action to adjust salaries, you need to recognize individuals for their work, not just on projects here and there, but the work that they do every day. And I think it's important to have that kind of memorialized, because it really is important to the employee to see that we, as we sit up here, not really seeing them regularly, but knowing that they're working hard, outside of just the meeting. A lot of the work that we get has been touched by all of them. And what makes the township look good really comes from them in the office, not really us up here. And we recognize that, but I think seeing it on paper, their name, all the things that they do, it's important for them to see that. And that's really back in, I think it was November we last talked about this, what I at least personally myself wanted to see. I wanted to see their names attached to some duties so people knew that they were being recognized for all their hard work. I think that that's important. And so I think from what I've read and what's been proposed, I don't think there's anything that's out of line, and I'm supportive of all the dollars we're talking about, and I'm not worried about it being retroactive in July. You pay me now or pay me later, right? They would have had this salary starting January 1 if this was done before the first of the year, and whether it was done 8 months later or 10 months later, it's all coming out in the wash, so I'm not worried about that. The only question I'm going to ask is, will we need to have a budget amendment for any of this, and if so, can we just do it at an upcoming meeting? Because we're not going to go over the year-end budget, we're just going to
Correct.
get kind of out of, so I'm guessing a budget amendment would be
Will be our
forthcoming.
December meeting,
Okay,
December 1st.
So any motion that would take action on the request that is here in H, I don't think we need to do anything other than to know, right, that a budget amendment will be
Right.
forthcoming. Okay.
Yep.
That's all I have.
Okay. Anybody like to make a motion for it?
I'll make a motion in the, in 10H to approve the request for salary adjustments as proposed.
I'll support.
All right, we have a motion and support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
All right, we have one opposed. Motion passes. Thank you very
And
much.
just for clarification, it is due to the time to review it.
Okay, well. All right, well, anyone have anything else they'd like to add to the meeting before we close it out? All right, I see this motion adjourned, or this meeting adjourned. Okay.